Allergist. A medical specialist who diagnoses and treats disorders of altered immunologic reactivity such as allergies. Hematologist. A medical specialist who diagnoses and treats disorders of the blood and blood-forming tissues. Immunologist. A medical specialist who diagnoses and treats disorders of the immune system. Oncologist. A medical specialist who diagnoses and treats malignant disorders such as tumor and cancers. Adenoid. Adenoids. Agglutine. To clump. Anexa. Unequal. Apheresis. Removal. Biase. Base. Blast. Embryonic stage of development. Chrome. Color. Coagule. Clotting. Cyto. Cell. Cytosis. Abnormal cell. Anemia. Blood condition. Eosin. Red, rosy. Eryther. Red. Globin. Containing protein. Globulin. Protein. Granule. Granules. Hem. Blood. Humid. Blood. Immune. Immune system. Is. Equal. Carry. Nucleus. Luke. White. Lytic. Destruction. Macro. Large. Micro. Small. Mono. One. Morph. Form, shape. Mile. Bone marrow or spinal cord. Neutro. Neutral. Nuclo. Nucleus. Oid. Resembling. Osis. Condition. Penia. Decrease in. Phage. To eat. Fag. To eat. Philia. Attraction to. Pheresis. Transmission. Poiesis. Formation. Poicle. Varied, irregular. Cider. iron, sphere O, globe, round, splen O, spleen, stasis, stop control, thromb O, clot, time O, thymus gland, tonsil O, tonsils, lymphatic system is an extensive drainage network that helps keep bodily fluid levels in balance and defends the body against infections. Lymphatic vessels carry lymph, a clear, watery fluid containing protein molecules, salts, glucose, urea, and other substances throughout the body. Spleen works as part of the lymphatic system to protect the body, clearing worn-out red blood cells and other foreign bodies from the bloodstream to help fight off infection. Lymph nodes, small masses of tissue located along the network of lymph vessels which filter out germs, viruses, bacteria, and fungi. Macrophages, white blood cell in the spleen, which engulf and destroy bacteria, dead tissue, and foreign matter, and remove them from the blood passing through the spleen. Thoracic duct, one of the major lymphatic vessels which begins near the lower part of the spine and collects lymph from the pelvis, abdomen, and lower chest. Right lymphatic duct is the other major lymphatic vessel. It collects lymph from the right side of the neck, chest, and arm, and empties into a large vein near the right side of the neck. Lymphocytes, T cells and B cells, located inside the lymph nodes, help the body fight infection. Interstitial fluid, liquid found between the cells of the body that provides much of the liquid environment of the body. Lymphadenopathy, a condition where the lymph nodes become swollen or enlarged, usually because of a nearby infection. Lymphadenitis, aka adenitis, inflammation of the lymph node caused by an infection of the tissue in the node. Lymphomas, a group of cancers that arise from the lymph nodes. These diseases result when lymphocytes undergo changes and start to multiply out of control. The involved lymph nodes enlarge, and the cancer cells crowd out healthy cells and may form tumors, solid growths, in other parts of the body, also called lymphosarcoma. Splenomegaly. Enlarged spleen, most usually due to a viral infection such as mononucleosis. Tonsillitis. Infection of the tonsils, an extremely common condition, particularly in children. Tonsillitis occurs when the tonsils, the collections of lymphoid tissue in the back of the mouth at the top of the throat, are involved in a bacterial or viral infection that causes them to become swollen and inflamed. Adenovirus. Any of a group of DNA-containing viruses that cause conjunctivitis and upper respiratory tract infections in humans. Bacteriophage. A virus that is parasitic reproduces itself in bacteria. Phage uses the bacterium's machinery and energy to produce more phage until the bacterium is destroyed and phage is released to invade surrounding bacteria. Clotting. A series of chemical reactions in which blood forms solid lumps to seal leaks, wounds, cuts, and scratches, as well as bleeding inside our bodies. Ecchymosis. Bruise. Hematoma. A collection of blood outside a blood vessel, a mass or tumor of blood. Granulocytes. Any group of white blood cells having granules in the cytoplasm, travel along the walls of blood vessels. Lymphocytes. Any of the nearly colorless cells found in the blood, lymph, and lymphoid tissues, constituting approximately 25% of white blood cells and including B cells, which function in humoral immunity, and T cells, which function in cellular immunity. Antibodies. Produced by white blood cells, special proteins that recognize foreign materials and neutralize them. Blood cells. Red cells, erythrocytes, white cells, leukocytes, and platelets. Thrombocytes are produced in the bone marrow. Hemoglobin. The iron-containing respiratory pigment in red blood cells. Erythrocytes. Red cells. Leukocytes. White cells. Thrombocytes. Platelets help in the clotting process. Three main types of blood vessels: arteries, veins, and capillaries. Arteries. The largest, strongest blood vessels that carry blood away from the heart. Veins. Blood vessels that carry blood towards the heart. Capillaries. The body's smallest blood vessels. They distribute oxygenated blood from arteries to the tissues of the body and feed deoxygenated blood from the tissues back into the veins. Anemia is a condition in which the body does not have enough healthy red blood cells. Red blood cells provide oxygen to body tissues. B12 deficiency anemia is an anemia in which low red blood cell count is due to a lack of vitamin B12. Folate deficiency anemia, lack of folate leading to premature RBC death caused by dietary deficiency. Iron deficiency anemia, a form of anemia due to lack of iron in the diet or to iron loss as a result of chronic bleeding. Chronic disease anemia, type of anemia usually due to chronic infection. Idiopathic aplastic anemia, an anemia in which the bone marrow fails to properly make blood cells. Megaloblastic anemia, anemia characterized by many large immature and dysfunctional red blood cells, megaloblasts, in the bone marrow. Pernicious anemia is a decrease in red blood cells that occurs when the body cannot properly absorb vitamin B12 from the gastrointestinal tract. Secondary aplastic anemia, an anemia due to a failure of the bone marrow to make enough blood cells. Sickle cell anemia, a genetic anemia disorder in which erythrocytes take on an abnormal curved or sickle shape. Thalassemia, an inherited form of anemia in which the body makes an abnormal form of hemoglobin, the protein in red blood cells that carries oxygen. The disorder results in excessive destruction of red blood cells, which leads to anemia. Lead poisoning. Lead takes the place of iron on a hemoglobin molecule, and thus interferes with hemoglobin's oxygen-carrying capabilities. Kidney disease anemia. The kidneys produce erythropoietin, a hormone that stimulates production of red cells in the bone marrow. Kidney disease can interfere with the production of this hormone. Hemolysis, when red blood cells are destroyed prematurely by disease. G6PD deficiency, when the enzyme G6PD is deficient, the chemicals can build up and hemolyze, or destroy, red cells. Hereditary spherocytosis, is an inherited condition in which red blood cells are misshapen and especially fragile because of a genetic problem with a protein in the red blood cell membrane. Autoimmune hemolytic anemia. Sometimes, because of disease or for no known reason, the body's immune system mistakenly attacks and destroys red blood cells. Neutropenia is a condition in which there is a decreased amount of certain white blood cells, granulocytes, responsible for protecting against bacterial infections. Neutropenia can be the result of chemotherapy drugs used to treat cancer. Human immunodeficiency virus (HIV) is a viral infection that attacks certain types of white blood cells, lymphocytes, that work to fight infection, causing AIDS. Leukemias are cancers of the cells that produce white blood cells. These cancers include AML, acute myeloid leukemia, 950, chronic myeloid leukemia, all, acute lymphocytic leukemia, and Chi-Ya, chronic lymphocytic leukemia. The most common types affecting kids are all in AML. Thrombocytopenia, a blood disease characterized by an abnormally small number of platelets in the blood. Hemophilia, congenital tendency to uncontrolled bleeding, almost exclusively affects sons, transferred from mothers to sons. Von Willebrand disease, the most common hereditary bleeding disorder, also involves a clotting factor deficiency. It affects men and women equally. Hypercoagulable, the clotting system is hyperactive, increasing risk of stroke or other blood clot formations. Lymphadenitis, adenitis, an inflammation of the lymph node due to an infection of the tissue in the node itself. Pharyngitis, pain and an inflammation of the pharynx, throat, also known as a sore throat. Breast cancer, a carcinoma that develops from the cells of the breast and can spread to adjacent lymph nodes and other body sites. Colon cancer, a malignant tumor of the large intestine. Cystic fibrosis, a genetic disorder in which the lungs and pancreas are clogged with large quantities of abnormally thick mucus. Hemochromatosis, HH, is a genetic disease that alters the body's ability to regulate iron absorption. Huntington's disease, HD, is an inherited neurological illness causing involuntary movements, severe emotional disturbance and cognitive decline. Parkinson's disease, Disease is a chronic and progressive disorder of the nervous system that causes tremors and muscular rigidity. Tay-Sachs disease. TSD is a fatal genetic disorder, most commonly occurring in children, that results in progressive destruction of the nervous system. Skin cancer. A harmful, malignant growth on the skin, basal cell carcinoma, melanoma. Prostate cancer. Cancer of the prostate gland. ABO. 3 main blood types. AIDS. Acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. ALL. Acute lymphocytic leukemia. AML. Acute myelogenous leukemia. ARC. AIDS-related complex. BASO. Bisophils. BMT. Bone marrow transplant. CBC. Complete blood count. CDC. Center for Disease Control and Prevention. CD4. Protein on T-cell helper lymphocyte that is infected with HIV and AIDS. KY. Chronic lymphocytic leukemia. 950. Chronic myelogenous leukemia. 905. Cytomegalovirus. DIC. Disseminated intravascular coagulation. DIF. Differential count white blood cells. EBV. Epstein-Barr virus. ELISA. Enzyme-linked immunosorbent assay. EOS. Eosinophils. ESR. Erythrocyte sedimentation rate. HCT. Hematocrit. HbHgB. Hemoglobin. Hista. Histoplasmosis, histology. HIV. Human immunodeficiency virus. HLA. Human leukocyte antigen. HSV. Herpes simplex virus. IgA, IgD, IgG, IgM. Immunoglobulins. Ks. Kaposi sarcoma. Lymphs. Lymphocytes. MCH. Mean corpuscular hemoglobin. MCHC. Mean corpuscular hemoglobin concentration. MCV. Mean corpuscular volume. Monocyte. NK cells. Natural killer cells. Polymorphonuclear leukocyte. PT. Prothrombin. PTT. Partial prothrombin time. SLE. Systemic lupus erythematosus. T4. Helper T cells. T8. T-cell lymphocyte. Toxoplasmosis. Accuracy. A measure of how often the test correctly finds or measures the analyte.